Hey, Leslie here, and I just got back from the garden this morning, and one of our neighbors gifted us some big chunks of rosemary from their garden. So I thought I would turn on the video and just show you what I'm going to do with this rosemary to give you a couple of ideas on how to use rosemary. Let's get started. Hey, Leslie Huddart here. I am a healer and spiritual guide. I focus on helping empaths and sensitive people release the trauma trapped in their body without years more of therapy. And I'm also a trained natural health practitioner. I've been an acupuncturist and natural health doctor for over, we're going on a decade plus. And so we've got lots of little tricks up your sleeve that you get through the years. So the question today that we're answering in this video is, what's one or two things you can do with rosemary? So Jay happens to be cooking potatoes for breakfast, sweet potatoes. You could probably hear him in the background. And so what I did was, with one of the sprigs, I'm just gently, and rosemary when it's fresh is pretty soft, so I'm just kind of gently picking them off. And on some parts of the branches it's easier. You can see we have this wonderful metal tray. You can easily get these at like an Asian grocery store. You'll find lots of big containers. We have this one, we have a big plastic bowl, and they're really helpful when you start doing more herbally garden type of things, to just have a big catch-all receptacle. And I can kind of like blow out some of the dust, little extra stuff that comes in there. But for the most part, I personally did not worry about washing it that much. This is an organic garden. And then generally, even when you go to like a place that makes organic teas, you'll notice that they don't wash herbs. You can't really wash herbs because it releases all of their oils. So if you go to like a professional tea company, that you'll see that the prep room, they use forced air to sort of separate out the debris, because you can't really wash things. This is also, side note, a reason why you really want to get organic herbs, because air is not going to blow pesticides off of your herbs. So we're doing a little bit of these fresh rosemary this morning that Jay is going to add into our breakfast. And then with the rest of them, I'm going to dry them. So some ideas for doing that would be, I have like an IKEA folding clothes hanger, and I may just hang them from there, or else you could tie a little bit of string and hang them from somewhere where they're not in direct sunlight, but they're getting airflow in that way, not a moist area. I wouldn't dry anything in the bathroom or place where you're getting a lot of those. And then what we'll probably do afterwards, after it's dry, is in a similar way, I will strip off all the leaves and I will put them in a jar, or if you're not sure if they're all the way dry, you dry them, you can take off the leaves, and then for a period of time you can store them in a paper bag. That will allow a little bit of airflow and the drying to continue. If you have any suspicion that your herbs are not dry enough, and then you put them in a glass jar, you're risking a little bit of mold or more mildew to come in, because you're putting it in that trapped place. So the paper bag can be a good medium in between. And then what we'll do is we'll use it in various cooking things. You can use a seed grinder, which is a coffee grinder. I'm saying seed grinder because I don't drink coffee, but really it's a coffee grinder that is only used at our house for grinding seeds and herbs. So I wouldn't recommend grinding them before you store them, because you're breaking down the plant and the oils. Instead, store them as a whole leaf, and then when you're ready to use them, you're only going to do the parts that you really need. The thing that I also want to include in this video about rosemary is doing a rosemary foot soak. So as a student, I had the experience in acupuncture school many years ago of doing a clinic round where there was a gentleman who was diabetic and was really having difficulty with a non-healing foot ulcer. If you've ever seen them, you can Google some gory pictures on the internet. It's no joke. There's issues obviously with people with peripheral circulation, with diabetes, and one of the things that he had been using from our supervisor that was really helping him on top of his Western medical treatment, which wasn't super helpful for him in particular in this situation, was to do rosemary foot soaks as part of the treatment. Now, what I'm about to tell you is not medical advice. It is not approved by the FDA and is not meant to diagnose, cure, or treat any diseases. So just use it for your educational purposes and always work with your licensed provider. So what I'm going to show you is how to do a rosemary foot soak. You're going to take a chunk of rosemary, and I'll show you, and boil it in water and use that as a foot soak. So let's go over what that might look like. So now I'm going to walk you through how to do a foot soak. I would take your largest pot and fill it with water. What I recommend just for energy purposes and speed is to actually use an electric water boiler and use that to fill it up. You want a decent amount of water. I'd probably fill it up to here. Because you're going to then use it as a foot soak. So fill the pot with water and you're going to bring it to a boil. Once you get it to a full boil, you're going to, and I would use about this much rosemary if I were using this much water. Again, it is the art and science of herbalism. And I might cut this up a little bit just so that it fits in the pot a little better. So I would have cut this up into pieces. After it is boiled, I'm going to turn the water off after it boils, put the rosemary in, and then put the lid back on and let that sit for maybe 10-15 minutes. And that is what I would use as liquid for the herbal foot soak. So in terms of what to use to soak your feet in. Now again, this is, I wouldn't actually use plastic. I would find something that's about this size that is metal. And again, Asian grocery stores are a great place for that. As you can see, I can get both my feet in there. But I wanted to show you this for size proportion. Another thing that I've used quite well is these are, I think we had some catering event or something that these were left over for. And I actually found that these are great because they just fit the size of my foot. So you really can maximize the amount of water that you're using. So I've used these and then I just used 2. And I would put them under my desk. When I was pulling these out from underneath the bathroom cabinet, you can also use these for Epsom salts or other things if you just want to soak your foot. What I will say about these is after you use them over time, sometimes, just because they're not super high quality, they can get like small little cracks in them. And I left one overnight. It still had a little bit of water in it. It did leak through the floor. The floor wasn't damaged, but that's something to think about, that these are not going to last quite so long. It's something that is a heavier thing. So those are some ideas on how to use, what containers to use foot soak wise. I've also gone to like a thrift store and bought like a big turkey baster kind of thing. We've just moved recently, so I'm not exactly sure where that is or even if I have it, but a large turkey basting thing with a big thing, that will also work as a great thing to soak your feet in. So soaking your feet in general, I think one of the things that people don't know is that really the bottoms of your feet and soaking your feet is a very great way to deliver an herbal healing message to the body. So even if you don't have time for a bath or other things, if you're having any sort of issues with your legs or feet, or just you need a pick-me-up, a foot soak is a really great way to do it. So I encourage you to experiment, even if it's just with some Epsom salts. It doesn't have to be involved as the rosemary soak, an Epsom foot salt bath for your feet, and you'll just notice. My experience was when I was doing a type of Qigong training specifically for the legs, we would do the physical training, and then afterwards we had a very special sort of proprietary from the lineage herbal soak that we would make much in the way that I described, of boiling water and then putting in this case I was boiling the herbs for a more heavy duty herbal formula, and then I would soak my feet in it after the practice. And there were times where I could just really subtly feel the energy and the meridians really taking it in, especially after doing that training. So that's part of how I became a believer really in the power of foot soaks. So I encourage you to give it a try in your own way, and let me know what you find in the comments below, or if you have a particular soak that you really like to use. This is Leslie Huddart saying your inner healing is important, and you are a soul with a body. I'm glad to be here with you, and I'll see you next time.